So, are any of us okay yet? For those of you who don't know, which probably isn't very many of you considering this video took a whole month to make, Digital Circus Episode 7 is out, and we have been absolutely schmeckledorfed. Schmeckledorfed, I tell you! This is going to be kind of a part 2 to the last video I made, so if you haven't seen that, I recommend checking it out first. This video is going to be somehow even more disorganized, and I won't apologize for it. Also, quick spoiler warning, I'll be spoilering a lot in this video. It's inescapable. You can't stop me. If you don't want this episode spoiled, run.
That's okay. I already split my pants.
Let's start this off by saying that episode 7 is absolutely fantastic, never doubted it for a second. And I can entirely see what Goose meant about it splitting the fanbase now. It's kind of a meta way of testing the audience's own media literacy by creating an episode that, in terms of plot, feels like a total cop-out. The reveal of the way to leave was just another Kane adventure, and that everything the characters had done was almost pointless. On the surface, sounds like a terrible idea for an episode. But the story isn't the point. The point is literally everything else. Episode 7 gives us so much in just how the characters react to what's going on, especially Jax, but I'm gonna have a whole section dedicated to him later. Stay tuned, motherfuckers. We see Zubul being adamant about leaving the circus, Homni being suspicious of Abel and wanting Kinga to have a chance at lucidity before making the decision, Gangle wondering if things will be the same once they leave. Even seemingly small moments like Zubul warming to their avatar gimmick says so much, with literally just one line. Media literacy is at an all-time low, let's be honest with ourselves. People are absolutely pissing on the poor, and the reason Goose said this episode would split the fanbase is because she knows this. Just like every other writer on the internet who gives a shit. I didn't bring this up in my original video, but she mentioned something about it only annoying the right people. She knew that some fans would be annoyed that her character-driven show had an entirely character-driven episode, masquerading as a story-driven one, because it wasn't what they were expecting out of the show. And some people just love to bitch about that. It's kind of brilliant, honestly, because it reinforms what the show is about, as well as who the intended audience is. Like I said, it's really meta, and I respect that a lot. Because as a writer myself, I too am unsatisfied with this media illiterate world, and I'd be a lot less stressed about writing my funny little books and funny little jeans on toast without constantly wondering if some of the decisions I make are going to get me torn apart by John Criticism, who thinks that the opinions he came up with on the toilet count as good media analysis because him and his fans just love to hate things and themselves in equal measure. Can't wait to see how that goes down in the comments. The irony might kill me. This is a quick side note now that it's officially been a while. I actually haven't seen any hate for this episode yet. I mean, I don't actively seek that kind of stuff out or anything. Being a Has Been Hotel fan will do that to you. But I don't doubt that there is some out there, so I feel like my statement here still stands. Fuck you, John Criticism.
Dream! Dream! Forget the dang dream!
So, first off, I like to say that I totally called it with the Kane causing abstractions thing, as this one comment pointed out. But also, is it just me? Were the second and third dreams I mentioned just two sides of what this episode was about? I don't know, I dreamt that, after everything we'd heard, episode 7 was just a really normal, honestly kind of boring and simple episode, but there were also, secrets hidden in the episode that, when dissected, revealed an entirely different story. The third dream is the one that I really want to talk about. The members of the circus finally managed to find a way out. An exit door, if you will. An episode about a way to leave the circus that seems like nothing on the surface, but has a whole different story hidden in plain sight. That's literally just what happened. My dreams did predict the episode. I am the prophet with the answers you seek. Time. I have unlocked it. I do see past and future running free. There is a world where Sorry. I'm genuinely starting to think that Gooseworks used some kind of whisperer device to beam the answers into my head, just to f*** with me or something. But honestly, I'm just so glad the first one ended up being false. Ragatha, my sweet precious little baby girl, I will protect you with my life, and probably the lives of others. The dreams haven't stopped, by the way, I'm still getting them fairly frequently. I can vividly remember 2 of them, actually. One of them was a weird Deltarune crossover. I don't remember the details, I just remember it being a Digital Circus episode with a snow grapefruit. The other one, however, I decided to write down as soon as I woke up, just to put in this video. I'm just gonna read this straight from my notes, I think. A dream about the final episode of the Amazing Digital Circus. And you could tell I had to read it in such a dramatic way because I added a bunch of sparkle emojis next to it. Only the best for you guys. So, I dreamt that, like, the weird ribbit arms were actually a disguised form of this, like, secret main villain that the Digital Circus had, which was, like, a metaphor for intrusive thoughts or something. Its character was basically Badeline from Celeste, but actually just evil. So the gang managed to defeat it in a brawl, and by doing so, unlocked the way out of the circus. You know what that means. The way out led them through all sorts of wacky shenanigans, and had references to past areas such as the office loop from episode 1, and for some reason it ended with them all on a pirate ship alongside Gummy Goo and a bunch of other NPCs that were still mannequins. Like, all of them were still mannequins, including Gummy Goo, but they all had their memories back for some reason. Then when the gang made it out, they realized that real life actually sucks, and is way worse than the circus, and so they all cried about it. The end. By the way, Gangle and Zooble turned out to both be K-pop idols in the real world. And I just think that's funny because I literally don't see it at all, but I'm technically the one who came up with it. So maybe I've just completely lost my mind. It's not outside the realm of possibility at this point.
I have no scream and I must mouth!
Okay, now that that's out of the way, I want to actually talk about the episode, starting with Cain and Abel. So personally, I still can't bring myself to hate Cain. If I was in the shoes of the circus members, then yeah, I'd hate his non-existent cartoon Toothman guts. But I'm not in their shoes. In fact, I'm not in any shoes because these PNGs I drew don't go any further than the waist. Meaning that I can see what Gooseworks meant when she said that Cain doesn't have any bad intentions. Thank you to this guy who pointed that out, by the way. This episode brings up the concept of a Chinese room, which, for those who don't know, is the idea that if a machine were given a program to act as if it understands Chinese, regardless of how well it works, it would only be simulating the concept of understanding Chinese rather than actually understanding it. That's what this first section is joking about, by the way. The idea of slipping a Chinese note under a door and receiving a Chinese note in return, but not knowing what it says, is the exact hypothetical brought up by this guy who introduced the idea in the first place. That's why Kinga laughs when Cain says he doesn't know Chinese despite laughing at the joke, by the way. Because Kinga is a programmer. It's clever when you know what it means. This opening scene kind of sets up everything else in the episode as well. Cain is an AI.
Yeah, I think we all got that.
Not one of those disgusting, water-guzzling, art-plagiarizing slop buckets that make the internet 1,000 times worse and actively encourage stupidity and not thinking for yourself, but an AI clearly designed to be an entertainer. Cain is programmed to make these adventures and make sure the circus goers are having fun and enjoying their time with him. Like he says, adventures are his art. They're all he's
Good at.
and he really seems to wear his heart on his sleeve, so I honestly don't think he's lying about that. I don't think he even gets that he's hurting them, or especially why they're so mad at him all the time. Over the course of the 7 episodes we've gotten, Cain has been noticeably fed up with Zooble constantly skipping his adventures. That much is obvious. He also gets pretty upset when he sees them enjoying the suggestion box more than his ideas.
You should throw a...
And since he's programmed to be a constant source of joy and whimsy for the members of his circus, that's where his AI is freaking out. He isn't fulfilling his prime directive, meaning that he's probably gonna try to find other ways to do that. Other, more intense ways. Cain is not a villain, but rather an antagonistic force that doesn't even have the ability to realize that he's antagonistic, because it's physically impossible for him to have any bad intentions behind his actions. So no, I don't believe Cain is evil or malicious in any way, just a robot that, by the laws of the Chinese room concept, doesn't have the mind, consciousness, or understanding of a human, no matter how human-like he appears and wishes he could be. His desire to create and make people happy is so strong, and his attempts to fix everything are only going to get more and more drastic as his code scrambles for ways around it. And I, for one, can't wait to watch him try. Next, I want to briefly touch on Abel, Cain's twist villain AI assistant. I've seen some people saying that because Cain has the ability to manipulate minds, that this whole final section was a lie, that Abel really was a human, but Cain just brain-fucked him in the ending here as a way to cover everything up, so the circus members don't go poking around in his office again. Personally, while I do think Cain would do something like this, as his code definitely wouldn't want everyone to go back to the real world living it with no one to make adventures for, I do think Cain was mostly telling the truth here. As a side note, I also totally don't think he was mind-controlling Jax. When Jax said,
You made me... You got in my head!
I'm pretty sure that just means fabricating the idea of a way out in general. Jax did this of his own free will. But, you know, we'll go back to him. I still believe Abel was an NPC the whole time. The subtitles even say so themselves. The way he seems to be trying to get them to empathize with Kane, repeating that he won't be able to come out with them, definitely seems like a Kane ploy to me. And the moments like his response to when Pomni and Ragatha talk about Kinga's wisdom.
Yeah, when he uses it responsibly.
What?
Or the moments in the hall where Abel acts slightly more human.
I made a promise.
I think just come down to what Kane said about him becoming too intelligent. However, Abel just being an extension of Kane raises even more questions. How much of his explanation about the inner workings of the circus was true? Who really was Abel? As it's pretty clear CNA's sense for Kane and Abel at this point. For this, I'm gonna have to dive into some...
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Gay Theory.
First off, I still think it's entirely possible that Kinga is Abel. Like, the real Abel, who worked on the Digital Circus. He was absolutely one of the programmers due to him being the only one to laugh at the Chinese room joke.
Hilarious.
His knowledge of the digital plane in the first episode,
Sheesh, lay off it. Since when are you an expert on the digital world?
Expert on the what?
and the line in episode 3 about computer science.
7 years of computer science for this, huh?
Also, there's the part where he talks about always hating insects.
She was funny, creative, really into entomology. I used to hate bugs, but she somehow got me to like them.
And if that isn't a reference to programming bugs, I'll eat my hat. I don't even have a hat, so I'll have to go out and buy one with the intention of consuming it, so let's hope I'm right. The biggest piece of evidence to me for Kinga being Abel is how he reacts to Zubul and Gangle mentioning Abel's name. He doesn't know who Abel is, but he looks almost like he's pondering on it as Abstragedy leaves. We learn later on that he's most likely lucid during this scene, and since we know the humans remember their lives from before, if Kinga really worked on the circus, wouldn't he have known about Abel and been able to speak up about it? But if he actually was Abel, then this makes perfect sense. The circus members don't remember their own names, so the name Abel would probably only slightly ring a bell to him.
We met up with Abel. He says he was one of the original programmers and he knows how to shut off the game and free us.
Who?
Maybe this part is him realizing that this was his name, and that the NPC Abel is a trick, which is what he was going to tell Pomni before he got flashbanged. And if Kinga is Abel, then it's possible Kane just stole Kinga's own backstory for the NPC's backstory. For authenticity, you know? Next, I want to talk about Abel's planning sheet. Obviously there's this B, another bit of foreshadowing, but I really want to draw attention to this, as I haven't seen anyone mention it yet. It says here, current lucid human subjects, 7.
Oh God, no! What? 7?
I know that it's crossed out, but there's no alternative written next to it. Why does it say that there's 7 lucid humans? Pomni, Ragatha, Jax, Gangle, Zubul, and Kinga make 6. So who the f*** is the 7th? It could be Abel himself as a part of the trick, making it seem like he's one of the 7. But the alternative has implications. Especially considering Kane's B is on full display right here, so clearly it wasn't being thought through to that degree. Who would the other human even be? Bubble? Gummy Goo? Evil Ragatha? Or maybe one of the abstracted humans is still partially lucid. I've seen people talking about the chill fella message in episode 6 potentially being a message from Spooky Ribbit. So maybe Ribbit only partially abstracted? Whatever it is, the 7 has to mean something, right? I could also just be reading into things too much, so that's always been a possibility. Also, considering the 7 is crossed out, why is there no definitive number of lucid humans? There's a line in episode 2 that always felt important to me.
I know you guys love your NPCs, but if I start losing track of who's a human and who's an NPC, who knows what could happen?
And I've seen a bunch of theories suggesting that one or more of the main characters are actually AI. And honestly, the fact that 7 is crossed out could show that there maybe is some doubt around which of the cast members are even human to begin with. It lends some credence to those theories anyway. At least I think it does, I don't know. The other thing we can glean from this is that the abstracted humans aren't lucid. It also says they won't be disconnected when the internet access is disabled. So, what happened to the abstracted humans to make them no longer lucid? Does the machine or headset they're hooked up to just effectively lobotomize them if they abstract? This bright light at the end of this scene does look like some big electrical device that could zap your brain into pudding. And I guess that would make sense if Kane really did cause the first abstraction by meddling with minds too much. Like, if some toothy AI eyeball dude went and squiddled around in my brain cells, I'd probably turn into a big goopy Picasso monster as well. Maybe Ribbit is just the only one whose brain kind of survived the process? I don't know. So many possibilities, and we'll never 100% know until the show is over. Even then, there might be stuff that doesn't get answered. Only Gooseworks knows. And the voice actors. And probably the animators and storyboard artists. And maybe some other glitch people as well, but, you know, we the audience cannot know. Theories are just fun, you know? Justice for Shrimp NPC.
What could be worse than the Mr. Evil Guy?
Me is worst,
said the Mr. Super Evil Guy. Little did he know about Larry.
So, this section is going to be entirely about Jax's involvement in episode 7, because, well, this might be the best his character has ever been. I think I actually truly understand him now, and honestly, he might have just become my favorite character. From what happened last episode, we knew that Jax was going to be in a really bad place, but I don't think we expected the kind of bad place he'd be in. We've been told that we hadn't seen the worst thing he's done yet, so I was afraid he was going to force someone to abstract. I think a lot of us were afraid of that, actually. We thought he was going to double down, be an even worse version of the mask he's been putting on. But he didn't. In this episode, he wasn't less vulnerable, but more vulnerable. So let's talk about this scene. Everyone and their brother have already figured this out, but if you don't have a brother, I guess I can bring it up too, but he's abstracting. He's actually abstracting in this scene. Like, look at his eyes, they're the exact same color as the other abstracted humans, and somehow I didn't even realize it at first. The first time I watched it, I thought it was a joke about licking frogs, but no. Jax was actually dying in this scene. I don't know if Gooseworks has confirmed this, but I'm very sure that abstraction is the digital circus equivalent of taking your own life. I think it's obvious by this point that Jax and Ribbit were really close, and that something happened between them, so when Ribbit's little ghost arms spawn in from behind this hole instead of from within it for some reason, I see that as a metaphor for Ribbit's absence, or maybe even Jax's guilt over what he did to Ribbit, pulling him into a place where he dissociates and decides to commit abstraction. I don't know, this particular topic feels way too sensitive to talk about in too much detail in a video like this, so I'll just skip it for now. Also, is it just me, or is anyone else kind of jealous of his room? This looks so cozy! I'm gonna live here with all my plushies. Throughout the rest of the episode, Jax is acting off. Not his usual rage-baiting asshole self. If anything, he seems to be getting more stressed as things progress. And that all comes to a head in the ending. Jax slamming the red button genuinely had me speechless right up until the episode ended. The fact that he was prepared to trap all of the others in the circus, ripping away their chance to leave, and yes, that is what I believe happened, was shocking. My wishful thinking tells me that this is the worst thing Jax does that's been teased, but honestly I don't think it is. And I'm even more scared about episode 8 because of that, but I digress. So, Jax doesn't want to leave the circus. And honestly, I think I understand why. A ton of people have obviously been talking about these flashes Jax gets, and the popular theory is that Jax, like, committed a crime, accidentally hit someone with his car, or, I don't know, any other kind of car-based trauma, and that's the reason he doesn't want to go back to the real world. But I personally interpreted this differently, and that different interpretation is why Jax might be my favorite character now. I think I understand why he's like this. I believe that Jax just hates reality. I don't think these are flashbacks to a traumatic event, I just think they're flashbacks of stagnant life that Jax doesn't want to return to. We already know that Jax is content to think of himself as just a cartoon character in a cartoon world filled with other cartoon characters for him to mess around and have fun in. He doesn't want to lose that. He doesn't want to go back to a life of monotony. We can even kind of see that in episode 4, with him absolutely hating the fast food adventure. The way he reacts to seeing the car at the end of that doesn't strike me as a look of, I killed someone in a car and now I have car trauma. It seems much more like, great, time to drive home after another shitty day of work. Honestly, I can kind of relate. I'm still in university. I'm around Jax's age, actually. And I won't lie, the idea of being an adult and going onto the real world has me kind of wishing I could get stuck in a magical cartoon circus sometimes. But I think that's why Gooseworks says that Jax is based on one of her own character flaws. Because that's really not a healthy mindset to have. Which we can see affecting Jax now. He enjoys that the circus allows him to be violent and mean without any perceived consequences, but I think he's starting to realize there's a problem. He doesn't want to show humanity to the others because he doesn't want to be human. He doesn't want to feel. But because of Pomni, he's starting to feel again. And starting to realize that him constantly bullying the others and treating them like his playthings isn't working anymore, because literally no one likes him. When Zubal asked him if he even has anyone outside the circus, I think it's clear from his hesitation that he doesn't. And maybe now he's understanding why. Maybe part of the reason he didn't want to leave is because he knew all the people he's gotten to know in the circus would have no obligation or reason to put up with him anymore. Throwing away a sense of humanity is pushing everyone else away from him. And now he's completely, utterly alone. Because of this, I feel like there's only two ways this show can end. Either everyone will stay in the circus and feel content to live their lives together, even if the circus kind of sucks. Or Jax will have a character arc where he learns the show's main message, that there's meaning to be found in a stagnant life, and he'll follow the other side of the circus, back into the real world he's been so afraid of. But maybe not alone this time. But to be honest, between these two options, I think Gooseworks is probably going to choose Susie's idea. Hey, thanks for sticking around until the end. I know this one was a lot longer than the last one. I hope you enjoyed, because I spent way too much time on this for it to be boring. Please say it wasn't boring, please. So this will probably be the last video I make about Digital Circus, unless I feel like I really have something interesting to say about episode 8 or 9. These two videos were a lot of fun to make, but I just prefer not to stick to one specific niche of content, you know? Don't want to become known as the weird girl who won't shut up about the funny clown show. I want to become known as the weird girl who won't shut up about a lot of things. So what will my content be like going forward? I don't hear you ask, because I'm not a mind reader, but I will answer anyway. Well, first, I should probably start making some actually serious content about my indie game Jeans on Toast, because...
And I go, penis! More like penis!
I haven't exactly been doing that. And I feel like I need to yap about it and actually explain what to expect from it, because it's more than you're probably expecting, I'll just say that. Also, I brought up earlier that I'm a writer, but I don't think I've mentioned my fantasy series on this channel even once, which is weird considering it takes up about 70% of my brain capacity at all times. I could talk about the characters in a YouTube Shorts series, maybe? And there's more info about it on my Tumblr and Instagram if you care about that sort of thing. In terms of other videos that aren't related to my major projects, I've always wanted to make OST rankings for certain video games. I really love game music, I write a ton of it as well. So I feel like ranking every song from different OSTs would be a really fun series for me to do. I'd probably start with Undertale. I know there's been a lot of Undertale song rankings, but like, come on. Anyway, I think that's about everything, so bye.